I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that yet.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. President Kennedy has been assassinated, is dead from the injuries suffered an hour ago in Dallas, Texas.
This moment in history, November 22nd, 1963, is known as the assassination of President Kennedy. That word assassination, that helps sanitize the moment. What this was a public, brutal execution of our nation's chief executive. This young, vibrant president, his beautiful, elegant wife, riding through the streets of a modern American city, the sun shining on them. How could anything be more glorious? And all of a sudden, in an instant, history, not just American history, but world history is altered.
There's a lot of dark, dirty secrets in history. And this is one of the darkest, certainly one of the dirtiest, if not the dirtiest. The president entered Dealey Plaza down Main Street. Cars slowed down at 35 miles per hour to make the turn onto Houston Street, 90-degree right-hand turn. Went north for 1 block to the corner of Elm Street, slowed down to 11 miles per hour to make the hairpin turn onto Elm. Supposed to speed up again to 35 miles per hour, but didn't. Kept slowing down to 5 miles per hour. The exact moment of the assassination, the car was going 5.2 miles per hour. That's 30 miles an hour less than the minimum speed allowed by the Secret Service. Wrong. It's all wrong.
Between the 6 miles that the president traveled from Love Field to arrive here in Dealey Plaza, there's 200,000 people on the streets. A good portion of the population left work and left school and came here to see the president and his glamorous wife.
The basic flaws in the Warren report are, number one, they said one person did it. That's impossible. Shots came the front and the rear. The timing of the shots was wrong. They had to start the timing too late because the tree was in the way between the so-called depository window and the president's car at the moment that the first shot hit the president. First shot was fired before the president went behind the road sign, and the president turns and looks toward the grassy knoll. Apparently he wasn't hit because he then starts to wave again, and he disappears behind the road sign. When he comes out from behind the road sign, he's hit in the throat from the front. Then he's hit a second time, thrown downward and forward slightly. About 2 seconds later, Governor Connolly is struck. He's hit by the right armpit, and his shoulder buckles, his cheeks puff out, his hair becomes disheveled. The bullet exits his chest, heads to the right, apparently, they tell us, to hit his right wrist. From the outside, goes back in again, and buries itself in his left thigh. That's the single bullet theory. That's why I call it the single bullet theory, because that's what it is. It's a fantasy. In fact, the president is hit, then Governor Connolly is hit by the armpit, then he's hit in the right wrist, and then he's hit in the left leg. Those wounds in Governor Connolly alone never line up in a straight line, ever. The Zapruder film is extremely important to the history of the case and to history itself because it's a time clock for the assassination. He's the only person who got it all. Yes, photographically it shows what happened, how the president responds, what happened to him. It also shows how other people responded, people around him. Jackie Kennedy, Governor Connolly, Mrs. Connolly, the driver, Bill Greer. It also shows the timing of the shots. Clearly the most valuable 26 seconds of film in the history of mankind.
Kennedy is driven away from here, and instead of him arriving at the Dallas Trade Mart for a luncheon, which is scheduled to occur, the president's car blows past the Dallas Trade Mart and goes another half mile to Parkland Hospital. If the Parkland doctors are correct in their initial assessment of this wound, that this is an entrance wound, where is the president when he receives that throat wound? In Zapruder's movie, We know where that happened. We know where he was when he grabs his throat. These are trauma surgeons, and we're going to give them credit for knowing the difference between an entrance wound and an exit wound. The explanation that one man acting alone does all this from behind the president, even though the president has entrance wounds on the front of his body, that's impossible. That's a fantasy. That is mythology.
They said Lee Harvey Oswald did it. Well, there are half a dozen witnesses that he could not have done it. Lee Harvey Oswald did not assassinate President Kennedy. He had no motive to do it. He had an alibi when it happened. He passed a paraffin test, lie detector test. He did not do it. They never considered any option except that Oswald was the lone assassin. They started with a foregone conclusion and tried to make all the evidence fit. If the evidence didn't fit, they threw it away.
I think that moment is so frozen in our minds, and it's so horrifying, people are afraid to broach the subject.
I have people who come up to me in the plaza all the time and they look around and say, "Hey man, it's been so many years, why do you even bother?" The President of the United States, a real president, was killed. He was murdered because he was trying to make things better. For every 4 years, we have an election by ballots. In 1963, we had election by bullets. It's not the way it's supposed to be. When I was a child, I had this image in my mind that it was a Walt Disney, Frank Capra world, that right will always win, that there was something particularly beautiful about the truth. And I've always had that feeling within me, that there's something particularly beautiful about the truth, and something particularly ugly as hell about a lie. The evidence is there. It's just as easy to learn the truth as it is to learn a lie.
We stand at this frontier at a turning point of history. Can a nation organized and governed such as ours endure? That is the real question. Have we the nerve and the will? All mankind waits upon our decision. A whole world looks to see what we shall do. And we cannot fail that trust, and we cannot fail to try.